Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into something fascinating and frankly pretty brutal, the world of the late 1st century Roman Empire. Specifically, we're looking at emperor worship and how it sets the stage for the book of Revelation. Our mission will first understand that original conflict Christians faced, but then turn it right around and ask, are our motivations today sometimes based on that same kind of self-serving loyalty? We're calling this the Genie in Aladdin's magic lamp analogy. Okay, let's unpack this. This historical clash is key.
It really is. And, what's fascinating is that the conflict wasn't just like a simple disagreement over gods. It was deeper. It was a fundamental clash over what divinity even meant. Rome controlled everything back then, the whole Mediterranean, and their worldview. It was built on making gods out of humans.
Right, but not just any humans.
No, exactly. Only the ones who showed, great achievements, people who conquered, brought stability, wealth, the ones responsible for the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, they were the heroes.
And the Christians. Their offense was worshiping someone who was basically the polar opposite of that Roman ideal.
Precisely. From the Roman point of view, Jesus was, well, a total public failure, a country bumpkin from Galilee, they might have thought. And worse, executed as a despicable criminal. The cross wasn't a symbol of hope then, it was total shame. Public criminality. It declared this person utterly incapable of bringing any kind of peace or prosperity.
So worshiping him was just an insult.
A massive insult to Roman religion, Roman culture, their whole value system. It flew in the face of everything they believed secured their world.
Which really sets the stage for the core power struggle. Emperor worship. That became the heart of state religion, didn't it?
Yeah.
Loyalty wasn't really optional.
Not at all. It was your civic duty. And this whole system, it got serious religious backing early on. The first emperor, he was given the title Augustus, the Exalted One. There were even inscriptions calling his birthday the beginning of the good news for the world, basically saying salvation comes through the emperor.
Wow. Good news.
Yeah. But here's where it gets really intense for the period Revelation deals with. The persecution peaked decades later under Emperor Domitian.
Domitian. He took things to another level, right?
He really did. He actually demanded people call him Lord and God. Now think about that. That's the exact same title Thomas uses for the resurrected Christ.
That's incredibly direct.
And to really hammer it home, he apparently replaced the statue of Jupiter, the top Roman god, with his own bust on Capitol Hill. The message was clear. And the whole point of worshiping the emperor, it was purely transactional. Flattery, praise, devotion, all offered because this powerful figure gave you good things. Survival, peace, economic stability.
So you didn't play along.
Then you were committing a very serious act of treason. And that's why cities we read about in Revelation, Pergamum, Ephesus, Smyrna, places that were huge centers for the imperial cult and trade, became absolute hotbeds of persecution.
Okay, so the historical conflict was basically seek your salvation and security from the emperor or from Christ. That core tension. How does that translate to us? The question then becomes, when we look for power or peace or provision today, are we demanding the same kind of transactional deal? Serve my needs.
That really brings us to that genie analogy, doesn't it? Are we sometimes treating God, or maybe even other forms of power, like the genie in Aladdin's lamp, this being with immense power, immense ability, but whose main job is to just do what we want, to fulfill our personal agenda, our hopes, maybe even our greed?
That's a challenging analogy.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't some self-interest just necessary for survival? Like the Romans wanting peace. Where's the line between legitimate need and just, selfish gratification?
That's the absolute crux of it. The line gets crossed when the pursuit shifts primarily to self-serving gratification. That's the Genie principle in action. And you can see echoes of this, arguably, in some modern dynamics. Think about economic structures, sometimes the obsession with money and power. The notes we looked at draw a pretty stark parallel here, talking about the fierce battle just to fill one's own greed, this desire for an excessive price for only moderate effort, sometimes even leading to, complex, high-level crimes just focused on extraction.
And if you scale that up, if a whole society gets caught in that kind of collective greed, it makes people vulnerable, doesn't it? It creates an environment where people might worship any powerful figure, any system that promises to satisfy that hunger. The thinking becomes dangerously pragmatic. Look, I don't care who's in charge as long as they deliver for me right now.
Exactly. And in that kind of environment, anyone who rejects that purely self-serving standard, who won't play the game, well, they face a modern kind of persecution. Maybe not always literal crosses, but control, compulsion, being shut out of economic life, isolation. And yes, in some places, still arrest, torture, even death. The temptation for these self-serving actions driven by collective desire, it can pop up anywhere, anytime.
So that's the challenge this history throws down to you. Listening right now, you really have to reflect. Is your loyalty, your faith, whatever drives you, is it rooted in seeking personal gratification? Treating power, whether it's political or spiritual, like a tool like that genie? Or are you trying to navigate by, well, the values of the Bible, the standard of the Word?
And it's crucial to remember that that unchanging standard, the word, that's really the only lens to correctly see the motivations and structures shaping life, not just back then, but right now. What we choose to serve ultimately shapes who we become.